overcoming alcohol, overcoming food. Let me tell you my story. Let me tell you, right? For years, I was battling with weed, right? I started smoking weed at the age of 13, right? Started smoking because my dad had weed around the house. I would listen to rap music and thought that was the cool thing to do. So I started smoking weed, right? Every single summer, right? Not too crazy. Around 15, got around the wrong type of people, started drinking and smoking probably a few times a week, right? Smoking weed, but nothing too crazy. Then I moved to Nevada, Carson City, Nevada, and I got around, thought I was all cool, part of a gang, not really too crazy of a gang, not doing anything crazy, just spray painting, graffitiing, and just drinking and doing stupid stuff like that. And so I started drinking, smoking probably a few days a week still, but more heavily. And then it became going into every single day, drinking and smoking every day, pretty much anytime we could, anytime we had money, get some 40s, get some weed, right, from our local plugs. And around 17 years old, right, so another year of that, drinking, getting blacked out, wasted on the weekends, smoking, right. 17, probably getting into some other drugs, nothing too hard, but some other types of drugs as well, psychedelics and some other stuff, but still drinking, getting blacked out on the weekends. The last year of high school, senior year, was probably the worst year, because around junior year started selling weed, right, selling by the quarter pounds and the pounds, right, went from flipping ounces to flipping quarter pounds to flipping pounds, right. And so I had an abundance amount of weed. I would smoke, and that year, right, I'd hardly show up to school. I was working a full-time job. I was plugging all day every day and smoking all day every day, and then barely going to school and rapping, right. I was a rapper, right, and thought that was gonna be it for me, right. And so I almost didn't graduate high school. I ended up getting my stuff together at the end of high school, right, where I was barely able to graduate, which was cool. Yeah, so with weed, the entire, for a good year and a half, I would say a good year and a half straight, I was smoking multiple joints, multiple blunts to myself a day, not including when I was smoking with other people, right? I remember multiple times where I'd smoke 7 joints and 7 blunts to the face, right? One day I'd smoke minimum 3. I would smoke a blunt in the morning, smoke a blunt for lunch, smoke a blunt for dinner, right? Like I was smoking, right? And I was more of a stoner, right? Just because I was a plug and I had so much weed than a drinker. So at that time, probably only drank a few days a week, but I was smoking every single day. And multiple times through this year and a half of me just, partying and doing all these sinful, lustful things and just completely pleasure seeking, drinking, getting blacked out, wasted, going to parties, and just getting wasted, right, and drinking and smoking like crazy amounts of weed. Multiple times, I can remember, especially towards the end of that, when after I graduated high school, this and that, I remember going through some really hard things in my life where I was alone, where I was realized that weed, specifically weed, was filling a void in my life of a purpose, having a purpose, having the support from my family, my father, right? Having real friends. Like I realized when you live that type of lifestyle and you're just drinking and partying, you're just smoking, and you're the plug and you're partying, this and that, you don't build good relationships. That's why the relationship is founded off drugs, off weed, all that type of stuff. So you don't build real friendships. So I was completely alone, right? I didn't have any real love, didn't have any real good relationships, real good connections, right? And it led to me just smoking more, right? Because this was already my crutch, my vice, where I would just lean on it more and more, right? And a lot of times when I work with people or I talk to people, or I've seen within my father, within my mother, within my grandparents, within other friends, from living that lifestyle, my own experience, a lot of times weed and alcohol is escapism from your current reality. It's pleasure seeking, right? Because you're seeking instant gratification. It's trying to escape your own reality because you're desiring something other than the life you're living right now, because it's a lack of appreciation, gratitude, right? It's filling a void of deep connection and relationships with people, because it doesn't have to be a woman, right? Even though I have a great loving relationship now, it doesn't have to be a woman. It could just be good friends, right? Good family. Lacking that in your life, and then lacking purpose. Those are the two biggest ones I've seen, as well as, because depression and anxiety and all this stuff stems from these things. Insecurities stem from just being not in line towards the best man you can be, right? And when you're doing that, that leads to insecurities, anxiety, depression, this and that, and then you lean on your vice and your crutch even more, right? And so this was happening, and then so I stopped smoking weed, drinking, probably for a few months. My first time I really quit after a year and a half, probably from, I don't know, the age of 12, 13, when I first started smoking, to around 18 and a half. So a good solid 6 years of never really quitting, just smoking and drinking what I could. And then because I didn't think it was wrong, and I didn't think it was bad for me, I thought it was the cool thing to do, the right thing to do. And then the last year and a half or so, crazy, like every single day, smoking crazy amounts of weed and drinking whenever I could as well, and doing other drugs too. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool thing to do, having fun, being young and naive, right? And first time I quit was, I think, for a few months, and then I smoked and drank again. But the course of probably 18 and a half to at least a good year, right? Probably a year and a half, really, of just consistently, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months, and then I'll go back to it. I'll go back to drinking and smoking. Drinking wasn't nearly as bad of a problem for me. I think it's because my dad's an extreme alcoholic, right? So it was easier for me to quit that, because I know I didn't want to go down that route. But weed, I never thought weed was a bad thing. I had it wired in my mind that weed wasn't bad, right? And so I ended up quitting alcohol, in that year and a half. Probably only drank a few times, right? But weed, through that year and a half or so, probably smoked another 20 to 30 times, right? Because of friends, because of influences, because the people around. Ultimately, when it wasn't around, I could stop for a few weeks, few months, no problem. I wouldn't get it on my own. But when it was around, I was influenced by friends, by family, by people around me, right? I would fall back into my lower self, my old habits, and I'd smoke again. But the last 20, 30 times, I kept on having this deep-rooted regret, and I knew I wanted to quit. I knew I didn't want to do it. I knew every single time I did it, I didn't like it. It didn't make me feel good. And I kept on getting angry at myself, because I knew every single time that I did this, I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't like the way it made me feel, and I needed to quit. I knew that, and I made this promise to myself I'd quit, and I kept on breaking my word. So it made me have a lack of confidence, insecurities, made me feel bad about myself. And that was happening probably 20, 30 times through the course of a year and a half. And probably about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I made the decision, and I completely stopped smoking weed. I said, never again, right? I'll never, ever smoke weed again, because it's not in line towards the man I want to be and become, my higher self, towards God, towards my goals, towards my vision. And I never want to feel like this again. And I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got sick and tired of being angry. And I just made that decision, and I've gone full forward, right? And so a lot of it comes to being a hard, disciplined man, and being a man of your word, and just fucking manning up, because when you're a boy and this and that, it's hard to break, right? But sometimes you got to grab your balls, and you got to really be a man of your word and hold your word. And then also a huge thing I've noticed with myself and so many of my clients, hey, yeah, if you're not strong, now I'm strong enough, right? And as it continues to go, another 6 months, another year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I'll be stronger and stronger, where music, people, the environment, family, friends won't be able to influence me. But even a year and a half out of it, now those things don't influence me nearly as much at all, right? But initially, and then I still don't put myself in those places, in those environments around the influence, but even now, a year and a half away, they influence me far less. And I know as time goes on, it will be less and less, where you're strong enough to be even in those environments, even though you don't choose to be in those environments and those influences, that you can hold your word and not fall into that stuff. But in the beginning, you're very weak, right? And you need the atomic habits, right? You need to make sure that you're not around these environments, that you don't have the option to drink, that you don't have the option to smoke. You need to have consequences and rewards. You need to not put yourself in these environments around these people. You need to not listen to that type of music. You need to not watch that stuff on social media, on TV, because those things you're at a vulnerable place and they can influence you into making the wrong decision, right? So that's what I would do for you guys that are struggling with weed, alcohol, really any vice, is making sure you are in those environments, watching that stuff, listening to that music, watching that stuff on social media, being around those friends, around those people, around those family members, right? Be a man of your word, set some consequences, set some rewards, and just man up and go full forward, right? Never quit, right? And through time, you're going to, quit for a few weeks, and then a few months, and then for a few years, and then you look back and you overcame it. You're not going to go back, right? But I know initially in the first few weeks, few months of things, when you're really trying to do it, you can fall back into it, and that's okay. It happens to all of us. You just want to make sure that you're making the right steps towards getting rid of it for good, right? The consequences, the rewards, not being around those environments, and just be a man of your word and make the full decision. All right, guys, that's the video for today. It's Devin Kripe with DC Fitness, my Spartan Gods, my Beast Mode program. You can message me on Facebook on Devin Kripe or Facebook to learn about my Ultimate Mentorship program, my Beast Mode program, my Fitness Nutrition program, any of my programs, right? To get the results you always wanted, to break all limitations, to break all vices, to break all false identities, and really step into your greatness and become the best you in all areas, right? Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, share with anybody who needs this, to hear this, to see this, right? Best believe. Much love. God bless your soul. God bless you. Check you guys next time. Peace.